Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. The sun's finally coming out. It's just kind of cold and chilly today. Barely really much into the 30s until now. The sun's coming out. But it's just been one of those days. But, it's homesteading, so you're outside all the time. But because it's cold and it's my cup of joe time this afternoon, and if you're interested in some really good coffee, you need to go to mooseruncoffee.com. Mooseruncoffee.com. It's a good family that we know. They have their own family-run business. They make it. Everything's organic. When you order your coffee, that's when they roast your coffee. So your coffee hasn't been sitting on the shelf for a while, and they're going to fill your order. When you place that order, then they go and they roast that coffee and they send it to you. So it's really, really fresh coffee. All organic, good, Bible-believing, patriotic, prepping family. So if you're interested in coffee and good stuff, like high-quality stuff, mooseruncoffee.com. There's my little commercial plug for the day. Everything's fine, folks. It's all fine. Don't worry about it. Don't get upset. Don't listen to all the stuff being talked about today. It's all fine. Everything is okay. All the really important, really smart people have told us in the last day or two that it's okay. Everything's fine. You know, Joe Biden and Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell, Jim Cramer, all of these people, they know way more than you do. And they have your best interest at heart. And everything's okay, folks. Just stay calm and trust the government. Yeah. Today didn't turn out quite as dramatic as some people had thought. I kind of wondered myself over the last couple of days how bad it would be. But as last night was kind of winding down, I got to thinking, I don't know that this is going to be quite as dramatic as we think. Is this the moment, the time, that they're going to let things just completely dissolve and fall apart? It ended up being that this wasn't that time. And so today, on the surface, for the average person that's just kind of checking the news and maybe even looking at the stock market, things didn't look too bad. I mean, they weren't amazing and awesome, but they didn't look too bad. It certainly didn't look like a whole banking world was collapsing. I mean, we didn't see tons of videos of all these people running to banks like in, in the Bailey building and loan kind of thing, where they're just, I need my money. We didn't see that. The scary thing is, though, is that what we did see today, if you were paying attention, is actually a lot worse than if we had seen a dozen or two banks collapse, if we had seen the stock market drop 10%, 15%. It's way worse than if we had seen videos of people all over the country lined up withdrawing all their funds out of the bank. What happened is way worse than that. But they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to catch on to what they're doing. Because what they did is basically the same thing they did back in 2008, but really it's worse. It's actually worse. I go into this in a little bit more detail over on my Patreon channel today. I just posted a video there, so you can go watch that one if you want a little bit more in depth of what I think is going on and what I think how this will turn out. Basically, to put it simply, I mean, they had a choice of whether to bail out the banks or bail out the U.S. dollar. And for right now, they're trying to make it look like they're doing both, but really they're bailing out the banks because that's where their buddies are. Their buddies are all in the banks. That's where all the wealth is. Because it's not the cash that's in the banks, and the banks don't really have gold, but where the wealth is the loans, is the actual assets. Because, see, that's why they want these banks to kind of fail, at least get close to it, so then they can go in and they can buy up all these assets, which is loans, okay? It's loans. And those loans mean that they own the deed or the title or whatever to that real property. this SVB bank, the UK branch, not the United States one, but the UK branch of it, was bought out by, I don't remember now, a UK bank, and they bought the whole assets for £1, £1 British. How many loans and how much assets was consumed by £1, £1 British. But they had a choice of whether to bail out the banks or to bail out the US dollar. And they chose the banks. Once again, they chose to bail out their buddies. And so they've created this big slush fund where banks that are struggling can borrow money from, and to, add liquidity, their little word, liquidity, it just means money, cash, into stuff. And they're saying that it's not at your expense or my expense. This won't cost the taxpayers a dime. Yeah, just don't worry about it. We're just going, poof, there it is. There's some money. Oh, here, but it won't cost you a dime, right? It won't cost you a dime, because they know that the average American is dumb enough to believe that. And you can say I'm an insensitive so-and-so, but probably if the shoe fits, wear it. Americans are too dumb to realize what's going on. They don't see that when they're saying, oh, you won't pay for it, you will pay for it. You'll pay for it through inflation, which we're going to see inflation go up, folks. It's inevitable now. For a while I was thinking that maybe they could get inflation down a little bit. Not down to the numbers that they're saying, but down a little bit. Now, inflation, it's done. That goose is cooked now. And that's where you're going to pay for it, and that's where it's going to destroy the dollar. This may not be the thing that's destroying the dollar, but it's definitely playing into the whole game of destroying the dollar. And they want that because they want you to have a reason out of necessity and desperation to accept their central bank digital currency. And so that's what's happening. While they're just consuming, the big banks are consuming the little banks, because the little banks were consuming all your little home loans and your little car loans and your business loans that they really own. And the bank really owns them. You may say you own it for the next 30 years, but the bank really owns it. And so in the end, all these big banks that really own everything, now they own just more of Americans' homes and properties and businesses. That's kind of what's going to happen. People are upset about this. I mean, some people are. Most people aren't. Most people have no clue what's going on. Most people think it's okay. I had someone comment, and if you're watching this, I don't think I'm picking on you or making fun of you. It's okay, so please don't get offended. My video this morning, someone commented and said, well, I've been watching Fox News and they say everything's fine, that this banking thing's not that big a deal, it's okay. Okay. Well, that's what they want you to know. That's what all of these, that's what they want you to know, which is another video I posted on Patreon. I posted 2 good videos on Patreon today. You should go sign up, $1 to $3 a month, and you can watch stuff over there and see all the stuff I post. But anyways, that's what they want you to think. They want to keep you dumbed down and blinded and gullible and believing everything. They throw all of this sensational, we're all going to die and the sky is falling at us every other week, and sometimes now it's every few days, and it desensitizes us. People are they don't even care, and they're not listening anymore because it's too much. It's too much to take in all at once. I mean, I do this for a living, and it gets to be too much for me too. I have to unplug every once in a while and just say, I don't care if the world ends today. I've got to just stop. It's too much, and it's working for them quite well. People that are listening and that are aware, they're upset because they feel that their hands are tied. They feel that they don't know what to do anymore. I tell you, I've said this before, and boy, I'll probably get some hate mail on this one. I've told people before, if you want to change this country, you want to cause a revolution, because electing someone's not going to do it. I mean, how many times have you heard, if you just vote for this guy, it'll change. If you just vote for this one, he'll fix it. We've learned quite clearly that that doesn't change anything, and that in the end they're going to put in office whoever they want to, regardless of what the vote says. But I'm telling you, if you want to change things, if you want to turn this country around, if you want to cause a revolution pretty much overnight, there's two things people need to do. And it's not lock and load and go in the streets. It's not, go to the Capitol building and, walk around snapping pictures with Nancy Pelosi's microphone. It's not anything like that. In fact, it's way more daring and probably more dangerous than any of those things. The two things that you need to do, that everyone should do, the whole country, at least all the conservatives, all the libertarians, all the constitutional people, they all need to basically stop paying their taxes. That's the first thing. Just stop paying taxes. Just don't pay them. And if everyone did it at once, yeah, there's going to be some people go to jail, and there's going to be some people lose their homes and their businesses. It's dangerous. Freedom is dangerous. Liberty is a scary, dangerous thing. But if tens of millions of people stopped paying them, that's going to wake some people up. I mean, what's the point of paying taxes? Even if it was legal, and it's not, they're unconstitutional, at least most of them. But even if they were, what's the point of paying taxes anymore when all the government has to do is just print a bunch of money, make a bunch more zeros on the, bottom of the bank sheet? So there's no point in it. And the only reason that we pay taxes is to control and own us. That's it. Our taxes are a drop in the bucket from what the stuff they spend and what they have. They only make us pay it because it's a control factor. They need us to be slaves a little bit longer. They want you to know that you are subservient to them. The second thing that everyone should be doing, and this is probably the least dangerous and yet the most controversial thing, is people need to stop voting. If you stopped voting and you stopped paying your taxes, I think you'd start seeing things change rapidly. Isn't it funny that whenever there's a voting cycle, there's one thing, and only one thing, and it's been this way my whole life and as far back as I can find in any research, there's only one thing that everyone, communists, patriotic, conservatives, liberals, Green Party, libertarians, constitutional, Christians, Jews, atheists, Catholics, Presbyterians, Baptists, all of them. There's only one thing that they all agree on, and that's get out the vote. Get out the vote. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote. It's up to you who you want to vote for, but just as long as you do it. Do you know why? Well, according to the Declaration of Independence, the government's powers are derived from the consent of the people. You ever thought about that? How did you consent? Did you ever sign some kind of piece of paper at some point, like when you became 18, you became a legal adult, and you have to go in, you have to meet with a government official, and you work out a negotiation that you will consent to their authority, and in return you get things like Social Security and disability if you ever become injured, and food stamps if you lose your job, things like that. But then you have to sign this piece of paper giving consent to them to rule over you. Did any of you have to do that? Because I don't ever remember doing that. I don't ever remember consenting to government's powers, whether it's good or bad. I'm not saying that all the things that government's done has always been bad, but I don't recall ever consenting to any of it. You know how that consent is assumed? Well, some people say it's a Social Security number. That's just the Federal Reserve and them. That's with their ownership of you. But how you consent to government is by voting. When you vote, you consent to government. It doesn't matter who you vote for. They don't care who you vote for. It doesn't matter. They've already got the ones picked out that they want in office anyways. But you need to go vote so that you're consenting to the government. The consent of the government, that's where their power is derived. And if people just stopped voting, the government would have just a few options. They would have to just become this big dictatorial power and be overtly obvious in their control, and then maybe people would actually wake up and revolt against them physically. Or they would realize that they have no power, and people would just basically ignore them. They're not paying their taxes, they're not voting. They just act like we don't exist. And that would change things too. Those things aren't going to happen most likely. I doubt it. We're going to continue to see this system grow and grow and grow. They have their plans. I don't know what they are. You don't either, and no one else does either. So whenever you hear someone that's figured it out, it's just their guess. I mean, it's, you know, they're just rolling the dice, and maybe they get it right, maybe they don't. Fact is they've already got it figured out. They've got their plans. They're going to bail some banks out. They're going to make some more money. They're going to consume more of your wealth, which is gold and silver and land. I mean, that's really at the bottom of the line. End of the day, that's where the wealth is. And so that's what they're consuming. They're consuming land, you know, property, gold and silver. And we're going to see inflation go up. You folks need to be really stocking up on stuff. I know I say it all the time, and you probably get tired of it, but it's true. It's time to stock up, because there could be a little window of opportunity that might actually work out pretty good for people, but only for a very small temporary time. Because odds are interest rates are going to come down, and so things like buying a house or maybe the loans that you have, it could free up a little bit of money, maybe. And there'll be that little window of when the interest rates come down, but the inflation hasn't quite reacted to it yet, because that takes a little bit of time. So there could be a little window of time there where things seem to be pretty smooth and nice when it comes to the economy. You know, interest rates are coming down. People have a little bit more money to liquidity. You know, they're not paying as much for, you know, their home loans, their business loans, or any other types of loans. Businesses are expanding once again. It seems pretty good. But then the reality hits, because when they drop those interest rates, they also threw billions and billions of dollars into the economy, well, into the banks. And then that's going to catch up with us. I was looking, did you know that just this year so far, we're 3 months into this year, just this year so far, there has been almost as much bank failures in real dollars as there were in 2008 for the entire year. So of all the bank failures and losses, total bank losses in 2008, we've almost hit that number already. Banks right now has something like total is $620 billion in unrealized losses. The Federal Reserve, it's something like $1.3 trillion in undisclosed and unrealized losses. It's all going to catch up with everyone. Someone at some point is going to have to pay the piper, and it's going to be us. I mean, they got their bunkers and all that kind of stuff fixed up, so, you know, when it all comes crashing down, if they have to, they can go there and live for a long time. And you and I, well, we have nothing. We're not going to have them. We're just going to have each other. And so that's why I can encourage you to prepare, encourage you to stock up, encourage you to develop the skills that you need, and encourage to come together in small little groups so that you can help each other. Because the house of cards is going to collapse. It has to. It absolutely has to. History has shown it that it will, and it will. And they want you to take on this digital currency. So at some point it's going to happen. And I just wish more people would wake up and realize that. But it's not. They're just not going to. Those of you that are awake, you do your best, okay? You're all in different places. Some of you got the money. Some of you are struggling just to keep the lights on in your house. And you're trying to figure out, how can I buy an extra can of beans? I don't even have that much money. Whatever you do, you've got to be serious about it. It's got to, you know, there's probably sacrifices need to be made. Because hard times are coming. And I think they're coming a lot faster than people realize. And while today seems like it was a pretty mild response to, you know, one of the largest banks in America to collapse, and the second largest in American history, and then the third largest in American history collapsed pretty much right after that. It may seem like today was pretty mild, but I assure you, the things that's been done behind closed doors, it's way worse than what we thought it was going to happen. Folks, you know, get your houses in order. Start preparing mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.